So I found out Denmark is quite a flat country, but how flat? Well, hopefully today's video will give us some sort of guide as to how flat it really is.
Hello and good day. It's winter, it's a Monday morning, and I'm standing at a T-junction in the middle of the Danish countryside. And let's face it, you all know why I'm here. Denmark is the country with the lowest highest point of any country in Europe, aside from the microstates of Monaco and Vatican City.
Don't really count.
In fact, Denmark's highest point is so small that they've spent years trying to find it. Originally, everyone agreed it was here, but then they realised, oh no, actually it's here, before someone said, no you idiots, it's there, and then there was a long argument about whether it was here or there, before they decided, no, actually it was here all along, until they checked it again in 2005, and discovered it was neither here nor there. But how can it be this difficult to find your highest point?
All right, I'm gonna cut right in. The question is, how is it so difficult to find its highest point? Now, clearly, there may be either lots of high points or not many high points that aren't very high, and they're quite similar. But the dates that were given there weren't really that long ago. So technology has been around to be able to solve these problems. So surely it must be such tiny differences in the heights that is making it so difficult, I suppose, because, well, yeah, let's just find out some more.
Or does the point actually change? Does it somehow move around the country? Well,
Maybe
let's
they
climb
take
it
it in
and
turns.
find out. Welcome to the highest mountain in Denmark.
Is it a mountain, though? Check out the Tim Traveller. Very informative videos.
So the plan this morning was to get a train from Aarhus to Skanderborg, and then the bus from Skanderborg to a place called Tebstrup, and then walk from there. But the train was late, which meant that I missed the bus and had to get a taxi from Skanderborg.
Well, at least you don't have to walk.
So I could have got the taxi straight to the top of the hill. But that felt a little bit like cheating. So I got it to drop me here in a place called Ries. And we're going to climb the mountain from here.
In other words, we're going to be attempting a winter ascent of the east face of the mountain. But before we start, I just want to clear up a little bit of pedantry. We are going to be climbing the highest point in Denmark, but it's not the highest point that Denmark possesses. Officially, the Kingdom of Denmark also includes the Faroe Islands and Greenland, both of which have much higher peaks than what we're climbing today. So we're climbing the highest point in metropolitan Denmark.
To be fair, I think that would be like when Britain had an empire and, you know, Australia and all these different places, India. When you say Britain, you don't think of Australia or India or wherever you do. You think of the British Isles. And I think it would be the same here with Denmark. When I think of Denmark, I do not think the Faroe Islands. I do not think of Greenland because they're sort of just territories, I suppose. No, just Denmark, top of Europe. I say top of Europe. Is it top of the middle top of Europe? Middle, you know what I mean?
The Denmark that most people mean when they say Denmark.
Not a lot going on in Ries.
And as we leave the village behind, the road starts to climb sharply upwards.
Sharply.
And we're now hitting the lower slopes of the mountain itself.
God.
Now, there has been some criticism on these videos from a few people who claim that I keep saying things are mountains when they're not really mountains. So, this is the mountain.
God.
Okay, I admit, having now seen the mountain, I'm beginning to understand why they had trouble finding it.
I would hesitant to even call it a hill. It's definitely not a mountain, and I probably wouldn't even call it a hill. Maybe a mound. A mound? Let's go with mound for the rest of this video, maybe.
So how is this the highest point in the whole country? Surely the Danes have got something bigger. Well, they sort of do. This is the much more impressive looking Himmelbjerget, and for hundreds of years, it was considered to be Denmark's highest mountain. In fact, the name translates into English as the Sky Mountain or the Mountain of Heaven. Guess I'm not the only
Maybe
one
it's
who
too
calls
close to
everything a
sea
mountain.
level.
And the climb from the lake at the bottom up to the tower at the top is over 120 metres. For a Swiss person, that's a walk to the shops. But in Denmark, that's unrivaled. No other hill on the Danish mainland can compete with that kind of climb or the views that you get from the top.
That looks nice.
But in the 1800s, during one of the biggest shake-ups the world of mountain measuring has ever seen, Himmelbjerget lost its title. And who was to blame? That's right, the British. And specifically an engineer called John Augustus Lloyd.
Never heard of him.
I propose that from now on, we should measure all elevation
From
not in
sea
terms
level.
of height from top to bottom, but in terms of height above the level of the sea. To be clear, Lloyd was not talking about Denmark there. He was more interested in the level of the River Thames. But his idea of measuring elevation from sea level spread around the world, and it didn't take long to reach here.
It sort of makes sense, right? Because even on watches, smart watches, when it does the elevation, it does it from sea level. Now, clearly, things are going to get a lot shorter because sea level is apparently rising. But it sort of does make sense. However, when does a mountain technically start then? Because if a mountain is in like the mid, like let's say somewhere in the middle of Europe, right? Poland, okay? The Tetra Mountains. Does that mean the Tetra Mountains are from sea level to the top? Is that the point? Or is it at the base of the mountain to the top of the mountain? That's the confusing bit. Now, clearly, this is a little bit further into Denmark. So does the mountain start at the sea and that's why it's so gradual because it's going all the way into the middle of Denmark? Maybe? It is quite simplified, but I suppose it does give... No. You still got that question, though. Where does the bottom of the mountain start? That's the big question, I think.
Between 1847 and 1875, Danish surveyors went out and made new measurements around the country. They discovered that the 147-metre summit of Himmelbjerget was only the fourth highest point in the country, and first place went to the 172-metre Ejerbaunerhøj, which I hope I'm pronouncing somewhere near correctly, because it turns out Ejerbaunerhøj is just up this road. And this is what it looks like.
I'm just waiting for him to go uphill.
It's got a great big tower built in
Nice.
1924 to commemorate the end of World War I, an information kiosk, toilets, ample parking space, and a stone engraved with the words, "You have now reached the highest point in Denmark."
Oh, God.
The only problem is, you haven't. And that's because of a
them
monumental
changed.
cock-up. During the construction of the tower, the builders had first excavated and removed a Bronze Age burial mound that previously lay on the summit. Not only was this somewhat distressing for local archaeologists, it also meant they'd shaved nearly 2 metres off the top of the hill. And that was a problem, because just 3 kilometres northwest of here is another hill called Udingskohøj, which is also a Bronze Age burial site, and because it still had a burial mound on top of its summit, it was now 1 metre
Does that
taller
count, though?
than Ejerbaunerhøj.
Does a man-made thing? Because a Bronze Age burial mound is surely a man-made structure. Yes, it's with soil and dirt, but bricks and mortar, is that not just man-made material as well? So, sure, does that count? I don't know. I don't know if that should count. I don't think a burial mound should count as the natural mountain of Earth. I think that shouldn't count. I'm saying it right here. So maybe Denmark needs to rethink that as well.
From what I can tell, no one actually noticed this for a few years, but when they did, it started a massive argument about which one was really Denmark's highest mountain. One side argued that Udingskohøj was the highest, because fundamentally it was, and the other side argued that no, Ejerbaunerhøj is still the highest because the burial mound is man-made and only the natural part of the hill should
That's
count.
what I said.
And it didn't end there. At one point, the astronomer Carl Luplau Janssen waded in to say, "I've done my own research and I can tell you Udingskohøj is higher even without the burial mound." To which the Ejerbaunerhøj fan club replied, "Well, why don't you move the tower there?" In all honesty, I'm not sure if Carl was being serious or just trolling everyone, but what I can tell you is that the tower is still here.
I wonder if this is open.
Oh.
So the tower may not have moved, but the argument raged on for years, and it was only when the National Geodetic Institute stepped in 1953 that it was finally settled. They ruled that only the highest natural point of each hill should count, and they were going to use their latest instruments to measure both summits and deliver a final verdict.
This is exciting.
Once and for all.
This is exciting.
And when the results came in, Ayabaunahoy reclaimed the title by just 6 centimetres.
Oh my word.
So this is officially Denmark's highest natural point.
Okay, there's still like 3 minutes left of this video, so I have a feeling this is not the highest point, because there's got to be some more. It's like, actually, yeah, a few years later it changed again.
Or at least it was until 2005, when they realised that that farm over there is very slightly higher. So I guess I have to go over there now.
At least you don't have
And
to
as
go
we
very far.
wander over to the farm, I think we may have uncovered the mystery of the moving mountain. Basically, there are 3 hills around here, which are all within a few centimetres of each other in terms of elevation, and it only takes a small inaccuracy in the calculations, or a careless construction crew, or even just a bit of erosion over the years, to change which one is the highest mountain in Denmark. But for now, it's this one.
Here we go. Mullahoy.
That's not a mountain.
English. Mill Hill.
But this does kind of raise the question, is Mullahoy still the highest? Has anyone checked recently? By the time you're watching this video, it could have changed again. For all I know, the farmer might plough the field tomorrow and accidentally give Denmark a new highest point. But until then, this is it.
100.
I want to do this properly.
Okay, so I just did a quick check. So if Denmark has the highest point of 170.86 meters, that could easily change, couldn't it? The highest mountain in England is Scafell Pike at 978 meters. So, yeah, a little bit larger. So I think we're summing up the fact that Denmark is a very flat place, aren't we? And you're never going to get too out of breath walking around Denmark. That's the main take from this. Insane. Let's get some drone footage, yeah. Countryside round us is literally steeper than this.
Oh, and by the way, when they made those new measurements in 2005, they also downgraded Ayabaunahoy, putting it in 3rd place behind Uding Skoghøj. Yep, turns out that crank Carl Luplau Jansen was right the whole time.
He wasn't trolling people. Insane.
If you'd like to climb 2 of Denmark's 3 highest points, and the 3rd one isn't far away if you want to go for the hat trick, the easiest option is to drive straight here and park at Ayabaunahoy. Otherwise, it's a 40-minute hike uphill from the bus stop in Tebstrup, which is served by the number 170 from Skanderborg. And Skanderborg is only a 15-minute train ride from Denmark's second city, Aarhus. Also, it's worth mentioning the tower has a lift if you want to avoid those steps up to the top. And that's about it for today.
Wow.
Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you soon.
There you go. The Tim Traveller. Check it out. I actually love his style. It's kind of sarcastic, fun at the same time, but obviously ultimately informative. This video was funny. I enjoyed this because it was a lot of sarcasm, right? Because 170 odd meters is not very high. And his walk, let's just say his walk from the taxi to the top, it wasn't 170 odd meters, was it? It was a lot less than that, because that's a key thing. Doing it from sea level changes everything, right? Because the original one that they did by the sea, that at least looked like a decent size hill, and you're going to get some decent views. And don't get me wrong, you'll get some decent views from this. But that is funny. Like I said, 900 odd in England, 170 odd in Denmark. That just sums up. So you're never going to get too out of breath. If you go hiking, it's a pleasant, flat stroll. Fascinating. Honestly, it's silly. And I love these types of videos where it highlights quite trivial things. And that might be quite offensive to this whole campaign. But it's stuff you may not have heard about before. So hopefully you've enjoyed that too. Tim Traveller, check him out on YouTube. That was brilliant. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, like, subscribe. All the socials are down there, and I will catch you next time.